Eugene sobs loudly, his cries echoing through the dim corridors. As the tears stream down his face, his mind drifts back to his upbringing in the dead mansion, where he was subjected to a special form of education from a young age. He has always been taught to follow orders, no matter what they entail, and he's never failed to complete his tasks. Still crying, Eugene approaches two armed security guards. They glance at him, dismissing him as just a harmless child. One of the guards, irritated, barks at him, demanding to know how he got inside. He radios the front gate, chastising the guards there for their lack of vigilance as Eugene gradually stops sobbing, his expression turning calm and innocent. As the guard speaks into his radio, a bloodied body lies face down nearby, unnoticed. The radio crackles with the guard's voice, asking how the gate could have allowed a child through, unaware that the two guards at the entrance are already dead. One of the security guards, realizing he's unable to reach the gate, kneels down in front of Eugene, his demeanor softening. He gently asks how the boy managed to get inside. Eugene, wiping away the last of his tears, explains that he came with his father, who has gone to the bathroom. The kneeling guard stands as his partner, still distracted by his phone, gruffly asks for the name of Eugene's father. The gentle guard chides his partner, reminding him that Eugene is just a child and to let him be. However, beneath Eugene's calm exterior lies something far more sinister. He knows adults instinctively protect children, especially vulnerable ones, and he uses this to his advantage. As the kind guard pats him on the head, offering comfort, he fails to notice the butterfly knife in Eugene's hand. With swift, precise movement, Eugene plunges the blade into the guard's neck, the action silent and deadly. The gentle guard collapses without a sound. It isn't until the other guard hears his partner slump to the floor that he realizes something is terribly wrong. Glancing down, he sees the pool of blood forming around his fallen comrade. Panic sets in as he rushes to the lifeless body, desperately trying to apply pressure to the wound. His frantic gaze searches for the boy, but Eugene has already disappeared from view. In a flash, Eugene leaps behind the remaining guard, cold indifference etched on his young face. With both hands gripping the knife, he drives the blade into the guard's neck, killing him instantly. Standing over the bodies, Eugene mutters to himself, "He is no ordinary child. He is a good child of the dead mansion. He has been conditioned from a young age to obey, and once again, he has fulfilled his given orders without question." Eugene's thoughts of his previous mission fade as sharp pain pulls him back to the present, where he lies injured on the cold ground. He wonders who this enemy is, someone so ruthless that they attack him without hesitation, even though he's just a child. His gaze shifts to Gopnik, whose face is twisted with sadistic pleasure. In that moment, Eugene understands. Gopnik is reveling in the violence. Gopnik twirls his bat with terrifying skill, laughing, and mocks Eugene, daring him to get up. His voice drips with cruel amusement as he teases Eugene, questioning how many more blows it will take before the child starts crying again. Eugene, still struggling with pain, refuses to submit. Determination flashes in his eyes as he forces himself to sit up, attempting to stand. But before he can get his bearings, Gopnik lunges forward with unnerving speed, his bat swinging down from above, aimed directly at Eugene. With barely enough time to react, Eugene dives to the side, narrowly avoiding the bat as it crashes into the tile, shattering it with devastating force. Shards fly everywhere, and Eugene stares at the destruction, panic beginning to creep into his mind. The power behind Gopnik's attack is unlike anything he's ever faced before. It's on a different level entirely. Gopnik grins wickedly, pulling the bat back for another strike, and boasts about his weapon, explaining that it may look like a regular bat but is far from ordinary. Eugene's heart pounds as Gopnik swings again, aiming for his head. He throws himself to the ground in a desperate dodge, barely escaping the lethal blow. He lands hard on his hand, pain shooting through his arm as it buckles beneath him. He tries to get back up, but his arm gives out, sending him crashing to the floor once more. Behind him, Gopnik taunts, his voice dripping with condescension as he asks if all Eugene plans to do is run. With a sadistic grin, Gopnik jabs the handle of the bat hard into Eugene's foot. The pain is instant and excruciating, drawing a scream from Eugene. Gritting his teeth through the agony, Eugene flips open his knife and swipes at Gopnik, but the blow is effortlessly deflected by the bat. He knows he needs to escape. With no other choice, Eugene grabs onto a nearby railing, using it to hoist himself up and over. He crashes down onto the staircase below, his body throbbing with pain. Gopnik, amused by the sight, leans casually over the railing and mockingly tells Eugene he'll give him 10 seconds to run. Holding up his hands, fingers splayed, he teases, asking if he should start the countdown. His voice oozes with twisted delight as he begins to count down the seconds. Eugene, adrenaline surging, scrambles to his feet and runs down the stairs as fast as he can, his foot slipping on the steps in his haste. His mind races. This opponent isn't like anyone he's faced before. Gopnik isn't just toying with him, he's playing a cruel game. As Eugene reaches the bottom of the staircase, he feels blood soaking into his sock from where Gopnik struck his foot earlier. Desperation fills him as he drags himself toward the exit, knowing his time is running out. But before he can reach safety, Gopnik leaps over the railing, his bat raised high above his head, a maniacal grin spread across his face. He brings the bat down with incredible force, smashing the tiles and ground into pieces once again, his strength utterly mismatched with his slim build. Eugene manages to dodge, but only just. Breathing heavily, Eugene stares at Gopnik, his horror growing. The 10 seconds aren't even up, but Gopnik doesn't care. Gopnik's laugh fills the air, a sickly sweet sound as he taunts Eugene, mocking him for ever believing the countdown would be honored. He readies his bat for another strike, delighting in the fear written across Eugene's face. Eugene, cornered, raises his knife, bracing it with his arm to block the blow. But Gopnik's swing is too powerful. The impact sends Eugene flying backward, crashing into the nearby pool with a massive splash. As Eugene struggles to regain his bearings in the water, Gopnik stands at the edge, laughing triumphantly. He revels in his victory, declaring that naive children are always the most fun to deceive. As Eugene sinks deeper into the pool, the cold water enveloping him, his arm throbs with a sharp, unrelenting pain. He opens his eyes, but all he can see is a blur. Despair seeps into his thoughts. Doubt clouds his mind as he wonders if he truly is useless, as he's feared for so long. His memories shift back to before this mission began, to a moment where Sion had mocked him. He recalls Sion mimicking his words in a taunting tone, cruelly imitating Eugene's self-doubt, saying that if he's useless, he doesn't deserve to be part of the family and should be discarded. Anger swells in Eugene as he remembers how he attacked Sion, protesting that those weren't his words. But the confrontation was cut short when Rachel intervened, stopping the fight before it escalated and telling them both to prepare for the mission. Sion, with a hint of mockery still lingering, promised Eugene that he wouldn't tease him any further. As the two of them readied themselves for the mission, Eugene, with hesitation in his voice, asked Sion if he planned to save Aunt Hyunho. The question seemed to catch Sion off guard. Eugene, sensing his confusion, explained further, stating that Aunt Hyunho had relinquished her ties to Sion, making her no longer part of his family. Sion, avoiding eye contact, claimed not to understand what Eugene was talking about. Frustration welled up inside Eugene as he balled his fists, venting his confusion. He told Sion that both he and Aunt Hyunho were strange. Sion was strange for trying to save someone who was no longer family, and Aunt Hyunho was strange for treating Eugene like family, even though he hadn't proven himself worthy. He added that Aunt Hyunho had told him that family doesn't need to prove anything to belong. The idea baffled Eugene, as it clashed with everything he thought he knew. Sion, running his hands through his hair, knelt down in front of Eugene, catching him off guard with a direct question. He asked Eugene if he ever considered Aunt Hyunho to be family. The question shook Eugene to his core. His thoughts raced as memories of Aunt Hyunho's kindness flashed before him. He stammered, recalling how she used to pat his head so gently, a gesture that had always felt foreign, yet warm. Slowly, he pulled out his butterfly knife, gazing at the polished blade that had seen so much violence. Sadness washed over him as he admitted that the concept of family Aunt Hyunho spoke of was so far from his own understanding that he couldn't grasp it. Family, to him, had always been something to earn, something to fight for. His thoughts were interrupted by a gentle pat on the head, this time from Sion. Sion told Eugene that he should ask Aunt Hyunho directly the next time they saw her. With a faint smile, Sion reminded him that Aunt Hyunho had requested Sion bring Eugene along on his next visit. The words stunned Eugene. He had never imagined that Aunt Hyunho would have asked for him specifically. He asked Sion if she had really said that, surprise and disbelief mingling in his voice. Sion, standing tall, confirmed it, offering to take Eugene to see her so that he could ask her all his burning questions himself. The prospect of seeing Aunt Hyunho again left Eugene standing there in silence, his butterfly knife still in hand. He stared blankly, torn between the conflicting emotions that the memories stirred in him. Even though Aunt Hyunho wasn't bound to him by blood, the memories of her kindness lingered, and the title Aunt still felt right. The bond, though confusing, was undeniable. He wasn't sure if he understood what family really meant, but in that moment, the possibility of seeing her again filled him with a sense of hope he hadn't expected. As Eugene sinks deeper into the pool, the water enveloping him like a heavy shroud, his mind races, grappling with the idea of family. The concept feels distant, elusive. He thinks about how Aunt Hyunho treated him as family, even though he hadn't earned it in the way he thought he needed to. His thoughts drift back to the twisted notion of belonging that had been ingrained in him, where proving one's worth was everything. But Aunt Hyunho's warmth clashed with this idea, leaving him confused and unsure. The water muffles his thoughts as he glances up to see Gopnik kneeling at the edge of the pool, a bored expression on his face. From above, Gopnik calls out with feigned amusement, questioning whether Eugene could really be such a poor swimmer. Eugene, struggling beneath the surface, bursts through the water, gasping for air, his voice breaking as he calls out for help. His panic fills the space as he thrashes wildly, his limbs flailing in desperation. Gopnik, barely containing his excitement, exclaims with delight at the spectacle, mocking Eugene's helplessness. As Eugene continues to struggle, he remembers how during his training, he had learned that children can use their vulnerability to evoke the protective instincts of adults. But Gopnik was no ordinary adult. He thrived on tormenting even the weakest, showing no mercy or compassion. Gopnik's laughter cuts through the air, his mocking words stinging as he teases Eugene about his inability to swim. Reaching out his bat, he pretends to offer a lifeline, stretching it just within Eugene's grasp. Eugene, desperate, reaches for the bat, his fingers barely grazing the wood, before Gopnik yanks it away with a sneer, taunting him further. The cruelty in Gopnik's eyes is unmistakable. He enjoys watching Eugene suffer. Eugene's strength begins to fade, and he sinks lower into the pool, the cold water closing in around him. Only his eyes and the top of his head remain above the surface, his energy all but gone. As exhaustion overtakes him, Eugene's body goes limp, and he floats face down, unmoving. Gopnik, standing above the pool, looks down at the boy with a smirk, teasing that he might have actually spared Eugene if he had been a bit more entertaining. But to Gopnik, the game was over, and he turns to leave, satisfied with the outcome. However, just as he begins to walk away, a small hand grabs hold of his ankle. Gopnik glances down in disbelief to see Eugene's small, trembling hands clutching his shoe, his face a mask of raw determination. With surprising strength, Eugene braces his legs against the pool's edge and pulls Gopnik backward with all his might. His eyes burn with defiance, a fierce will to survive. Gopnik is caught off guard by the sudden force, and with a powerful splash, he is yanked into the pool, the sound echoing throughout the room. As Gopnik resurfaces, sputtering and furious, he shouts in frustration, cursing that he had been tricked by a child. But Eugene moves with quiet precision, his training kicking in. Silently, he slips behind Gopnik, wrapping his small arms tightly around his neck in a perfect chokehold. Years of brutal training had honed Eugene's ability to act, to adapt, and now, the fear and hesitation that once plagued him vanish. His grip tightens as his cold, calculating side takes over. Gopnik thrashes wildly in the water, his hands clawing at Eugene's arms as he struggles to breathe. Between desperate gasps, he reminds Eugene that he had claimed not to know how to swim. But Eugene, his voice now devoid of fear, responds with chilling composure. He reveals his true self, a child shaped by cruelty and training, bred for moments like this. Gopnik had been naive to believe him. A sinister glint fills Eugene's eyes as he tightens the choke even further. He feels no remorse, no hesitation. In his mind, he's simply doing what he was trained to do. As Gopnik's struggles grow weaker, Eugene's thoughts turn cold and mechanical. He is a good child, fulfilling his mission with ruthless efficiency. His grip remains firm as Gopnik's body jerks in the water, his desperate attempts to escape growing futile. Eugene knows he cannot fail, not now. He has proven, once again, that he is worthy of the mission he was born to complete.